Whoa, that's quite a grip.
See, Marge? Strangling the boy has paid off. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore. Times have changed.
You know, it's been a lot of years since The Simpsons was any good. Maybe, I don't know, 20? The Simpsons absolutely hit its stride for probably seasons 2 or 3 through 10. Many of us probably would argue that it lasted a little bit longer. But, you know, there's a great documentary about zombie Simpsons that I think is really good. However, the other thing that we're seeing is that we have a resurgence. The last couple of seasons of The Simpsons have actually been pretty good. I'm currently rewatching them from the beginning, and, you know, ultimately there is, I think I'm on season 5 now, season 6, and there's a lot, there's a lot between now and season 35 where it is. But there's been several times over the years where The Simpsons have decided to go woke, so to speak. They had the whole thing with Lisa and Marge not that long ago, and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. But now we've got Homer will no longer choke Bart, as apparently times have changed in the most recent episode. Now, there was this clip.
Whoa, that's quite a grip.
See, Marge? Strangling the boy has paid off. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore. Times have changed.
Times have changed. I'm not sure they have. I mean, I don't think that any parent has like said, hey, Homer Simpson did that. You know, Homer Simpson did that, so I can do that. So I'm going to do the same thing that Homer Simpson did. Removing this is kind of an iconic thing that happened on The Simpsons. Of course, left-wing media absolutely celebrated it. Homer Simpson has stopped strangling Bart in The Simpsons, and it's about time. Look at this guy in his low T. Of course, he's like my low T brother-in-law. Nothing lasts forever. In time, the continents will crash into each other once more. The sun will swallow the planet, and at some point long after that, The Simpsons will end. But that isn't to say that it's incapable of moving forward with the times. Before in yet another nod to shifting tastes, Homer has revealed that he will no longer attempt to strangle Bart. In the 3rd episode of the current 35th season, Homer greets his new neighbor by shaking his hand. When the neighbor comments that he wasn't expecting such a firm grip, Homer replies, as I showed you. The news has inevitably riled up a number of feathers. The famously tolerant GB News shrieked that The Simpsons had gone woke by refusing to depict any more scenes of adult human repeatedly gripping a 10-year-old by the throat so hard that he struggles to breathe and his eyes bulge. It's also a cartoon. It has been similarly set ablaze at the snowflakes in charge of their show and their parent disdain for doing this to kids. However, it's worth pointing out that the episode wasn't about Homer reaching a point of realization that never strangling Bart again. It was him pointing out that he doesn't do it anymore, and he really doesn't. Homer hasn't even done this since season 31. An entire global lockdown has come and gone since Homer last strangled Bart. The fact that nobody noticed until Homer verbally acknowledged it is a sign that the outrage machine often operates outside the realms of basic human context, or that people don't really watch The Simpsons anymore. Well, I think the reality is people don't watch The Simpsons anymore. That's just the truth of it all. And I think that there have been some good episodes in kind of the recent history, but certainly it's not what it used to be. Either way, despite the howls of naysayers, this is probably the right thing to do. Homer strangling Bart never sat particularly well in the bigger picture of The Simpsons. Back in 1992, when the show was in its infancy, President George H.W. Bush publicly remarked that American families needed to be a lot more like the Waltons and less like The Simpsons. The line went down badly because it demonstrated that Bush didn't understand The Simpsons. Yes, they were dysfunctional and often at loggerheads with one another, but Simpson family was bonded together by a tight and permanent love. If you watch the show, you understood that perfectly. Well, the thing about The Simpsons is that they often portrayed Homer as essentially a complete loser, right? A complete loser, moron, even though he had so many great fatherly moments, so many times where he went above and beyond to, pay for Lisa's horse, to get Lisa's saxophone, to protect, his family and kids. He often pushed himself to the limit, working third shift, working nonstop hours between the power plant and the Quickie Mart so they could, buy feed for Lisa's horse that she loved so much. Even Stampy, which is an episode I watched last night, Homer tried to make it work to keep Bart happy. However, in a loving family where the patriarch routinely punished his son by strangling him, I basically came of age with The Simpsons. I was Bart's age when I first started airing, and the strangulation gag always seemed a bit near the knuckle to me. I never had a problem with it. I never really had a problem with it. I never thought people actually did that. I always knew that it was a cartoon. And I think that in kind of the how do I say, infantilized way that kids are treated nowadays, as opposed to mainstream media is there and wants to protect them. What's more is it never was actually funny. The strangulation gag was unyielding in its rigidity. Other running gags like the prank calls to Mo could evolve and change over the years. I always thought it was hilarious. I mean, I guess comedy is subjective, and if you're an easily offended soy-infused child man, maybe you're worried about it. Times have changed, and this is a sign that The Simpsons is doing its best to keep up. It wasn't always like this. By sticking to its guns when Harry Kondabalu made his documentary The Problem with Apu, keeping Hank Azaria as a voice of Apu Nahasapima Petalon in the face of growing criticism. The Simpsons was dragged into a long and ugly public spat. Compare this to the quiet recasting of black characters like Carl Lou and Dr. Hibbert, replacing Azaria with Alex Desert, Kevin Michael Richardson 3 years ago. I mean, The Simpsons were kind of on the forefront of, like, you have to be a brown person if you're going to voice a brown person, but you could also be a brown person and voice a white person. And we've seen that actually come back around in, we've seen that come full circle to where people are actually more offended now. The voice actors are whining that they can't get jobs. There was a famous, I don't know if it was Final Fantasy voice actor, an Asian guy who came out and was like complaining that he only gets cast for Asian characters. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways, right? Everyone told us that it was bigoted and racist and homophobic or whatever these cases were to have these, having Apu voiced by a white man. Well, that's what you get. You get what you whine for. There were always workarounds and mentions of strangulation development to my kids who hoover up episodes of The Simpsons in vast qualities on Disney+. At first, they were just appalled at the worst recesses of Twitter. It's a classic gag, my 8-year-old wailed. Why are they taking that away from us? I explained that it's not very good for a TV show to depict a serious scenes of a father doing that to his son. Eventually, they agreed. So what he's saying, he's actually admitting here, is that his 8-year-old kid is more based than he is. His 8-year-old kid is not worried about the depiction in the show. I can't imagine a worse self-own, to be honest with you. You're saying that an 8-year-old kid said it was no big deal. You, a writer for The Guardian, is having a meltdown about it. I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't know if anyone even cares about The Simpsons anymore. It will always still hold a near and dear place in my heart, quite frankly, because I grew up with it. I love The Simpsons, and I'm rewatching it now, and every episode, I haven't thought about it, but then I'm watching it, and I remember every line, I remember every joke, every gag, and it's just like, I have no reason. There's so many good seasons of it that I don't have to worry about kind of this woke injection of politics into it. So I'm not really going to wail and complain too much about it. But I guess you got some headlines, Simpsons. I suppose maybe that's what they need. I don't know. It's a sign of the times. It's pretty sad overall.